Okay, thank you very much for everyone for attending our site plan review committee. Before we begin, do we have any declarations? Hearing none. I'd like to make a few introductions. My name's Councillor Tom Vague. I'll be chairing today's meeting. We have with us Councillor Christina Bezans, Councillor Joe Sponga, Councillor Tom Hempin, Regional Councillor and Deputy Mayor John Taylor, Councillor Jane Twinney, and Councillor Dave Kerwin. If I can ask the staff present to introduce themselves, and then I'll ask our applicants to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To my left is Linda Travis, who is the senior planner who is carriage of this file. To my right is Commissioner Peter Nohammer of the Development and Infrastructure Services Department, and my name is Rick Nethery, the Director of Planning and Building. On the other side, we have Chris Ann Finnerty, and beside her is Kim Pelham. And Mr. Chair, to your right is Megan White, a planner with the town.
Thank you very much. And from the applicants, who's present? Yes, and if you can introduce your team also.
Sure. I'm Duff Ryan, the architect.
Thank you.
Ryan Company architect.
I'm Danny, and the designer of the
Okay, thank you. Thank you, and I understand you have a presentation for us.
Sure.
Just to answer the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Kerwin?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the pleasure. Just before we start the presentation, just like our senior planner, Linda Travis, who has the file on this.
Excuse me, Councillor Kerwin, can you turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry.
Mr. Vague. I would like our senior planner, Linda Travis, just to explain what has happened on this site. The file folder goes back almost a decade before this project was on our doorstep about 10 years ago. I think it was 2006, and I believe it went to the OMB and decisions were rendered. But I would like so all members of council understand, because many of you are new on council, like Mr. Hempin, Christina Bezans, and Kelly Room Plumley, Jane Twinney are new for this project. So I'd just like you to outline the history, Linda, if you could, on this site, which is at the corner of Lamar and Leslie, on the southwest corner.
Through the chair to regional, through the chair to Councillor Kerwin and other members of council. This file was the subject of an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment back in the mid-2000s. The applications were appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board, the official plan amendment and the zoning amendment, by the former owner of the property. The Ontario Municipal Board rendered a decision in February of 2006 permitting the land use of a retirement home on this property. The site plan application was not before the board, so the board made no decisions on the site plan. That is the application that is before committee today for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So, as Linda indicated, the property has changed hands. And it did go through OMB a number of years ago. I guess 2006. The decision was rendered. A new team, there's a new owner, and a new team has been put together to put the project together and to ultimately, hopefully, have it built. And that the design has not changed from the submission that was made to the OMB and which was approved by OMB and which is now part of your zoning bylaw. So the intention is to comply with that OMB decision and all of there were some minor conditions that went along with it having to do with fencing and frosted windows and the like to accommodate some of the concerns that the neighbors obviously have. So this is our team. So it's Ryan Company Architect. I'm acting as the architect on the project. YNS International Design, HL Engineering, Cole Engineering, and Green Y Landscaping. So a professional team put together to put this building together. However, the lead member of the team does not know how to change the page. How do we flip to the next slide here? There we go. Thank you. So just by way of context, I'm quite confident everyone here knows where the site is and what it is. It's been vacant for quite some time. It's at Lamar and Leslie, across the street from a large industrial park and abutting a single-family residential neighborhood. Save the industrial park, it's sort of a typical location that a senior's home would go. The industry looks for, although we didn't find this site, it's the type of site that they look for. They like to abut single-family residential neighborhoods on sort of main arterial roads which have somewhat higher exposure. So that is the context of the site. This next drawing is a rendering of the building. There was an earlier version that was somewhat more modernist. This is a more traditional design. I'm not sure exactly what name to put on it, but it's a traditional design with mansard roof. There's sort of a mix of styles in there that you could assign to this thing, but in any case, they've made an attempt has been made to make it a handsome building that will fit into the residential neighborhood, but also to the scale of Leslie Street. This is a site plan drawing which shows how the building is located. It relates to the street, to Leslie Street, with the parking on the back side of the street, fairly heavily landscaped. There is a physical challenge with the site, that being that it slopes, I don't want to say drastically, but it slopes pretty good from sort of from north to south and from east to west. And there's roughly, I think, a 2.5 or 3 meter drop from the top corner of the site to the back bottom corner of the site, which in order to accommodate site drainage and stormwater flow and so forth, there's going to be a fair bit of fill that's going to be involved in leveling the site and causing the stormwater to drain towards the street without getting into what would be a very serious mechanical systems to eject the water somehow. But in any case, this is consistent with the OMB decision. The siting of the building is consistent, the parking count is consistent, the number of parking spaces, the design has not changed from what was submitted, at least materially changed from what was submitted for the OMB, including, we've indicated the fencing that was requested, and although not specifically indicated on these drawings, through the site plan process, we would be addressing the specific requirements of the OMB decision, including the fencing and the frosted windows. I can flip back these anytime if we need to. So our landscaping plan, again, subject to going through the process, the site plan process, we haven't had any extensive feedback yet from the town on this, but this is the landscape plan, so there's a buffering between our site and the residential neighbors, landscape buffering, also some landscaping along Leslie Street and Lamar Road, of course. I won't go into the detailing of what the planting is at this meeting, but I think probably some of the concerns of the neighbors would be that landscape buffer is in there and is attended to, and also the fencing to provide some level of privacy for them. Now the elevations are sort of self-explanatory, relate back to the three-dimensional drawing that we showed earlier. And again, I mean, the elevations do show that it's going to be necessary for us to do, if that were an elevation showing the natural grade on this site, that left portion of that drawing would be about 3 meters lower, so the basement would be fully exposed. So there's going to be a requirement to do some backfill in order to level, make the site somewhat level, make it accessible, drivable, all of that sort of stuff. Fortunately, at the street level, the grades are good. It's at the back side where they drop off rather drastically, significantly. Again, This is actually the parking lot side, which is where the principal entrance to the building would be located off the parking lot. Again, consistent with the OMB layout. Nothing has changed on this design, at least that I'm aware of in that regard. We comply with the height that was set out, the area setbacks, and so forth. So, as far as we know, we're in compliance with the zoning bylaw right now. North and south elevations, again, somewhat repetitive, but you get the idea, the look of the building. It's a mansard roof. Precast or stucco cladding with a stone base. So pretty traditional in terms of the design. I think we're advised we had 10 minutes. I'm not sure how long we're on here, but in any case, just returning back to the rendering of the building to have an image of it. And this view is from the sidewalk on Lamar Road, correct? And then beyond that would be
On this part.
Leslie Street?
No, this is the parking lot.
That's the parking lot
facing
on,
the parking
yeah.
lot.
So we're looking at the parking lot and walking towards Leslie Street. Behind us would be the residential neighborhood. And then across the road, there's a large plaza, industrial. Well, it's not it's a mixed-use sort of plaza. So I believe, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for
Okay.
that. Please remain seated.
Sure.
Do we have any questions from, or comments from council? Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, once again, I'll start off with, through you, Mr. Chair, to our senior planner, Linda Travis. So basically what is happening, Linda, is this has been approved basically almost 9 years ago with minor verifications with regard to the site plan. Is that correct on this?
Through the chair to Councillor Kerwin, the site plan per se was not before the board, although when you read the board's decision, there were elements addressing overlook, shadows, traffic, all of that was considered by the board. And what the applicant is advising committee today is they will respect those comments that were in the board's decision.
Right. So basically what the owners now are doing is respecting the decision of the OMB, which was handed down in February of 2006, correct? Okay, we can maybe fine tune it or so forth. The questions that I need to ask the proponents of this proposal is, in according to our bylaw as well, because of the grade, it slopes one way and it slopes the other way, there'll be no runoff of water onto the properties to the west of this or to the south of that. Am I led to believe that is correct? There cannot be. I could even ask Rick Bingham or an engineer.
No, that's best way to put this. So that's a general condition in development that you need to contain your own water or deal with it on your own site. So we would not be allowed to dump water onto the neighboring properties or drain water across their properties or cause any damage to their properties by stormwater. So in some way, and in this case, it was designed and was presented to the OMB in that way, that they would build the site up and drain the water away from the neighboring sites. That's a general principle in land development.
To the proponents,
Which we would comply with.
once all issues have been satisfied through the town and through the residents and so forth, when do you anticipate the beginning of the construction?
Well, I can't really speak to that, but I mean, if all goes well, I mean, they could potentially start construction next spring, I would think. It would be a reasonable timeline for getting through site plan agreement. I'm not sure what the timeline is for the town of Newmarket, but typically that's a 4-month process.
Right.
Then we would, after that, once all the various issues have been considered and resolved, finish all the rest of it, we would go into working drawings and get ready for building permits. And I would think that the owners would rather move forward than sit and start start construction in the spring would be my best guess.
The second thing is that during construction, I would assume that the proponents will not be asking for any exemption to the noise bylaw, that they would adhere to the construction hours from Monday to Friday and then again on Saturday. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I can't speak to that right now. I'm not the project manager, the construction manager, but generally speaking,
Right. That
we're
will
going
be,
to comply with all the various bylaws, zoning bylaws, noise bylaws, working time bylaws that are in place.
good.
with the town.
Those are, to you, Mr. Chair, I thank you. These are questions I want to ask, and I'm sure when the residents speak, you will no longer be in the chair, but you'll be in the audience, and
Fair
they'll have
enough.
their questions as well.
Yeah.
Because I know in the next year or two, if there's dust or mud on the streets, either Lamar or Leslie or whatever,
We're gonna hear about it.
I'm going to hear about it, okay? So I need to have this tied down myself as we proceed further, because I just went through the construction of a retirement home in my ward just recently, Renessa, which now has been completed and it's up and operating, but it was a rather strenuous time because we needed an exemption from the noise bylaw, which council was gracious in granting to get it finished, and it was completed in basically almost on schedule, not on cost, but basically on schedule, okay? And that's what I want. I need timelines. I don't want this project to drag on and on and on and on, and there's a half-finished building, okay?
Thank you. Just before I get to the next question, there was a mention of the construction noise bylaws running the Friday and the weekend. Just for the information for the residents, what are the hours for that, please? Anybody know off the top of their head? No? Okay, bad question. The information, Regional Councillor Taylor.
Thanks very much. A few questions. First, you've indicated that the rainwater will be collected, treated, and used for irrigation. Can you tell me what kind of approach or system you're using for that?
Not sure, Diane, can you speak to that, the rainwater capture?
Firstly, we're thinking about the, one is the stormwater. When we worked with the environmental engineering company, and they gave us some suggestions. Right now, we can see the stormwater management, and we can have some water of the rainwater, and we will do the irrigation system on site. And
So the irrigation system will be
Yes.
driven entirely or in part by rainwater that's being collected?
Yes, basically is this, but after we're going forward, we need to talk about with the landscape architect, and they will give me some more idea about that.
Okay, so if staff can maybe also follow up on that and what's
Right.
planned, because we often get these checks marked on these sheets, and the other one I'm curious about is the alternate paving materials. What are you anticipating there?
Permeable.
You are going to use permeable
Yes,
permeable
for sure.
pavers or
Permeable pavers.
permeable pavers?
Yes.
Walkways or the parking lot itself or everything?
At least a walkway is, and parking lot, we're thinking of asphalt, part of the asphalt, and some other permeable materials.
Okay.
A mix maybe.
If we can also, as a town, just follow up on what's proposed. Next is, you're proposing here a retirement building, a residential retirement building. So is there any staff in the building?
These, this is what would be referred to as independent living. So, yes, there are staff. So essentially, each suite has what you would call a kitchenette, but not really cooking facilities. There's a common dining room, and so the residents don't require, like a long-term care facility where the residents require a great deal of assistance or help or
Okay, so it's
whatever it may
like,
be. This is independent living.
so this is more like the model where there might be a recreation director and,
Yes.
a manager and then some
Yes.
kitchen staff, et cetera. So
Yes.
maybe 10 staff at any given one time?
I
Or
would say a dozen or
a dozen?
15 maybe. There could be, often they'll have a nurse who will come in maybe once a week, or a doctor who might come in once a week. There's sometimes I'm not sure what the operations are or who's going to be managing this building, but often they sometimes will have some other facilities in there that the residents can use. There might be a hairdresser that comes
Right.
in once a week, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so I
But
guess
it is intended to, at least in the beginning, to be independent living.
So my question, I guess, through to yourself, maybe even to staff, was the parking approved as part of the OMB? Because I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, let's even at the low end, 12 staff, that leaves 11 parking spots for 60 units.
Yeah, I could speak to that if you wish.
From staff?
To the regional councillor, yes. The board dealt with the matter of parking demand through its decision. It is now fixed in our current zoning bylaw, requiring a minimum of 23 spaces. And the applicant has provided that on the plan we have before us today.
So I guess my question through to the proponent then, are you at all concerned, or you're fairly
No.
confident you're going to get 80% people that don't have a vehicle at all?
Absolutely. Typically in these, I can give you a specific example. I've got another meeting on a very similar type project tomorrow. In Barrie, we have 125 units and 29 parking spaces.
Okay, and
That's the zoning requirement for a nursing home there,
okay.
seniors home.
And through to staff, and if you don't know that, I understand, but by any chance do we know if there's currently on-street parking on Lamar? Don't know? Okay. Something we might want to look into, to the councillor as well.
The parking demand on these buildings is quite low.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last question I had was about the southerly, the staff notes refer to the southern, where is it? Portion of the southerly buffer strip does not meet the minimum bylaw width. Was that also the way it was presented to the OMP? Was that the adequate?
Through the chair to the regional councillor, the board did reduce the portion of the buffer strip where basically what we would call the hammerhead is, down to a distance of 2.2 meters. The current plan before you does not respect that. It will need to be adjusted to meet that 2.2 meters. It's just slightly less. So the plan will need to be adjusted, or relief will need to be sought from the provisions of the zoning bylaw.
Okay, I'll leave it there. My closing comments would, I hope you can find a way to adjust the plan to meet within the limits of what was provided by the OMB, as I think.
That's the intention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sponga.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Can you tell me who the operator is for this seniors home?
I don't know personally who's going to operate them.
Is there a company?
We don't, right now, we don't know yet. We're still seeking.
Okay,
But
so-
we will invite qualified.
Okay, so you're the designer, you're the architect. Who is the actual applicant? Is the applicant here?
Janita, she's the owner of this
Oh,
property.
the owner, okay. Are you presently running other seniors homes?
No, but we're gonna cooperate with the community. There's one nonprofit senior care organization.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if
Yep.
I can-
Yeah, please come forward so we can hear. Perhaps one of you can give up their seat for a moment.
You're the boss. You can
You're the
tell them to
boss.
get out.
And also, if we can, just for the record, if we can have your name, please?
Yeah, for the management point of view, that right now that we, okay,
I think the chair asked.
Yeah, just for the record, if we can have your name, please?
okay, sorry. My name is Janita, Janita Wen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so for the management point of view, that at this stage, we already contact a few senior home management company like Leisure World or the others, and then we're comparing their offers and proposals, like what kind of services and consultants they can provide for us. We also have the cooperations with the local, there is a nonprofit senior care organization, so we can do together to for those management. They will give us more ideas, and then and basically we are the developer for this, but we're going to hire experienced management team to operate this.
Okay, I
Yeah.
understand. So, when in your investigation of potential operators and partners, investors to take over this home, have you had an opportunity to vet what their requirements are in terms of parking, in terms of amenity space, those kind of things? Or what are you basing this on? Usually operators they're operating homes for seniors, so they have a clear understanding of how much amenity space they need, parking spaces they need, staff they're going to have in there, and so forth. I think Councilor Taylor asked some very poignant questions, but it's clear that you don't have an operator at this point, so it's really you're guessing the numbers.
Selecting.
Yeah.
We're still selecting.
It's a little bit of a gap there. So you're kind of lacking the information in terms of how many staff you're actually going to need there and so forth, kitchen personnel, all those things, right? So have you had an opportunity to speak with companies such as Chartwell or Primacare, whomever it might be, to sort of get an idea of what their requirements are for parking, staffing? Does this building fit their models, or is this going to be a building that you're going to build and then you're going to have a hard time actually marketing it?
And I don't think they mentioned the hard time of marketing this, and then what they actually, because when we approach into them, we have our own idea that okay, I already told them that this one will provide, as Daph already mentioned, some programs like the residents will cook themselves, so there's a stuff there.
I see you've got little garden centers for annual plantings and so forth for the residents. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have the transportation programming. So basically, I don't think there's a much need for the residents to have their own cars.
Okay.
Because they're gonna have free transportation to go shop. We're gonna the building itself for the operation now has their own cars to help residents transport.
I admire your initiative and what you're doing. I have a little bit of a concern, the fact that you're not in the business of running seniors' homes, and you don't have an operator right now associated with you, so I have a bit of a concern in terms of whether you're actually meeting the requirements to operate this in the way it should be operated. But we'll leave that.
I can speak to that a little if you like.
Okay.
It's very typical for a developer to buy a site with the intention of putting a senior's home on there. And every operator operates, I'm involved with a few of these, so every operator that operates these seniors' homes operates a little bit differently. So I work with a seniors consultant who advises on how much parking you're going to need, how many staff are going to be there, what size should the rooms be for the market you're in, what sort of amenities should you have depending on your price point in terms of what you're selling, what level of care you're going to give. Some seniors home operators give higher level of care than others. So I mean, we've worked with Tridel, Baybridge, lots of the big guys, and they all have slightly different requirements. So at the stage that they're at, they would be working towards a kind of generalist model that fits what most of these guys want to do. And then at the point where, and this is very typical, I mean, our Barrie building is completely designed and it's finished rezoning and it's going into site plan, and we don't have an operator there yet, although we're in discussions with 4 or 5 different guys. You make a deal with whichever one, and then from that point there would be some minor tweaking, but they're very similar. So in terms of how much parking they need, they're all very similar. The parking load typically is lower, much lower than what this might be if it were an apartment building or a condominium or what have you, like much lower. For example, we have a condominium component on another project that we're doing, and the parking load for the condominium component is 1.25, 1.5 units, or cars per unit, which even in today's day and age is ridiculous too, because we try and get away from the cars a little bit. But that's the parking load by zoning bylaw. The parking component for the seniors home is something like 0.25 cars per unit, because generally once you get into one of these units, people don't drive so much, but they do have visitors. course. They have people who come and visit, they have the staff who come and go. Most of the parking gets used up by the staff. There's the odd project where they run into a little bit of a parking problem, but typically you go to one of these and there's no cars there.
Okay.
A few cars, but not very many.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I
That's how
still
it
have a
works.
concern, and the concerning is the tweaking.
Yes.
And I can tell you right now, 1.4, I find it very hard to approve a 1.4 per unit in the condominium development downtown.
Yeah.
So if you were to come to me with a 1.25, I'd say absolutely not. The other question
What's
I
the
had,
seniors concept?
well, you'd be surprised how many cars seniors own. The other question I had for you was snow storage and removal. How's that going to work?
I'm not sure that I can answer that question at this point.
That's not good.
I just don't, I'm not sure how it would be managed. I mean, it would need to be managed within whatever your requirements are and whatever your bylaws dictate.
Okay.
So how specifically they're gonna manage snow removal,
I can't speak for the rest of the committee members, but that's something that I'm looking forward from proponents when they come prepared with that answer.
right,
Thank you so much.
okay.
Thank you. Councillor Bazans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for your presentation. Just for the record, I think it's important to recognize that any retirement homes now are regulated through the Retirement Homes Regulatory Authority.
Correct.
So any conditions regarding how many staff, the facilities themselves, the facility design, safety, fire code, sprinklers, all of that is very specifically outlined now in the regulation in the Act. So
Correct.
I think that regardless of who you decide, and there are some very strong and reputable management companies out there who actually own and operate their own homes as well as manage other people's homes, would be required to follow any of those regulations that are very, very clearly and specifically laid out. So, I guess I'm not as concerned that somebody fly-by-night would come in and be asked to run your home or your facility.
It's a very challenging business.
It is, yeah. And anyway, as for the issue around the parking, I would concur. I think what we're finding is that the average age of seniors living in retirement homes has increased. So the likelihood that they are still driving their own cars is it's still there, but it is reducing. These kinds of facilities do help seniors to age in place with some degree of independence and hopefully out of long-term care facilities.
Yeah, I believe the age has gone up 7 years in 20 years.
Yeah.
So the average age of a resident in a facility like this has gone up by 7 years in the last 20, which is significant.
Yes.
We're living longer.
Yeah. Yes. And, facilities or residents like this do help people, as I said, to maintain a fair degree of independence with that little bit extra support they need to be able to live in their own homes. But my question actually relates more to access. I think that's the plaza across the road from the building. And I seem to recall, and perhaps Councillor Kerwin remembers this a little bit more, that seniors like to be able to get out and do their own grocery shopping or whatever, and there's also medical offices in that plaza and so forth. And I think it would be great to encourage them to be able to go walk and access those facilities that are close by, as opposed to relying on their own cars or somebody to drive them. So my question is, and the reason I mentioned Councillor Kerwin, I think when the Barton House opened up, there was a real issue because the seniors couldn't get across the street to the plaza, and so we had to put in stoplights there or a crosswalk. So I'm just wondering if you've had any discussion with our engineering department or any consideration of what we might need to do to make that access more accessible for seniors to cross the street in a safe way.
At this stage, we have not had that discussion, but if it comes up, then we'll certainly address it. We've made the submission a week ago, I believe, so there hasn't been time for comments to recirculate just yet, but, no, we haven't had that discussion. Unless Diane has, maybe you have.
I can answer this question because behind the building is Leslie Street, and if we see the set plan, we can go back to set plan. Can you speak up a little bit? Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, if you can have a seat, you can speak right into the microphone. It's right in front of you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's the microphone right there. Thank you.
Okay. Behind this building, there's a walkway of the back from the back door, and then the path can connect to the sidewalk with the proposed one. And then I think that's so far it can make a convenience way for the senior. But in the future, when we improve this set plan, we will think about more easier way to do that.
Way to cross Leslie Street?
No, actually,
I think Diane's referring to more to getting from the building to the
yeah.
sidewalk.
So far,
Where
I see.
your concern is more
We can see.
getting around the, oh, cool. You talking about this, Diane?
this is the front door of the building, but so far we considered another walk path here. Connected this patio, there's the hard paving, and then this path can connect this sidewalk, and then they can go to the intersection here. And in the future, we will do more detail for that. Right now, we haven't make too many make more pathway for senior, but absolutely we will consider more about that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. But I think that is a consideration, that before long they'll be wanting to cross the street, and it is a very busy, Leslie is very busy, and you know, seniors aren't as quick as other people might be in getting across. So I think that will, at some point, if this goes through, that I can probably bet that will come back to council at some point to have some opportunity to cross the street.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, I would like really to thank Councillor Christina Bazance for your knowledgeable input on this. I thank you, Christina. And you're quite right. I've been involved with Ward 2 has 5 retirement homes in it right now, including Barton, which is just to the north on the corner of Shrigley and Leslie. And you're quite right. Thanks to Regional Councillor Taylor, we put in traffic lights there, and people can cross there over to that plaza, which has basically everything. It has a no frills, it has a medical center, it has lovely restaurants now, and not that I'm speaking this, but there is a stoplight, of course, at Gorham and Leslie, which is just very close to yours. Also, there's going to be infill on the cemetery land shortly, and there will be stoplights to the south of your project. So there'll be 3 stoplights, one at Shrigley, one at Gorham, and one at Bogart Mill Trail when you go there. So the stoplights are there, plus the commercial area. You're quite right. The Barton residents do use it. They have independent units, and they do shop at No Frills and other places in that area. And Councillor Sponga raised a good point with regard to snow removal, and we could tie this down in site plan, is that there should be snow removal from the residential area, so you don't block off 3 or 4 or 5 spots with snow in the winter. Winter here lasts 6 months. But not only that, at the end of the winter, those snow mounds are really unsightly. They're ugly because litter accumulates on them, and it's just like up at and then the snow melts and you've got nothing but a pile of litter, and the snow gets blacker and blacker, so it really is unsightly. So I would suggest that whoever does your snow plowing, when you contract it, that they remove the snow from the parking lot, so that doesn't occur and it becomes unsightly to the residents who are going to be living there, but also to the residents around there, to the south and to the west and to the north, okay? It's just, if we can do anything in the site plan with that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Is there not a property standards bylaw and that deals with snow removal?
That's one area where there's a weakness.
Okay.
You take a look at the plazas in the spring, they're horrible, they're deplorable. Councillor Sponga's ward, Ward 5, that old plaza, when they just heap the snow up, it's like a ski hill. And when it starts to melt in the end of February, March, April, it looks horrible.
Oh, I hear you.
You know, and no matter where you go, whether it's the city of Toronto or wherever it might be,
Yeah.
and there's nothing but if you tie it down now, we've solved the problem. You don't need that property standards enforcement on your property because we've tied it down in the site plan, and you've eliminated a problem yourself. There's we had a problem in one other area of my ward where we insisted that the contractor and the property maintenance people remove the snow, because all that litter just flows into your surrounding area. And in this area, there's a creek there, so it all flows into that creek. And you have a lot of salt and sand, so you don't want that on your property. It just interferes with your parking. Thank you.
And fire routes and otherwise. I agree.
Make a note of that.
Thank you very much. No more comments from council. We do have perhaps first we'll ask a move to receive the presentation and comments, and then we'll move on if the residents have any comments.
I move to receive the presentation.
Second, Councillor Bazans. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll relinquish our seats.
Yes, please.
All right.
Now, is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to make any comments? Yeah.
Just in case I...
Thank you very much. If we can just have your name and address for the record.
My name is Johan Wickers and my wife Anneliese.
Okay.
And we got 17188 Leslie Street.
Okay.
That's the property just south of the property we're discussing here.
Okay. And please try to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Well, we have some of the concerns have been brought up. By one of it is the parking. One thing what I made is the buffer zone, the landscape buffer zone. That includes the garbage dump on my side of the property, which I don't appreciate very much. I personally was here in 2006, and this similar project was rejected by members of council. And now we're back at it again. Of course, having a property south, I don't appreciate, or we don't appreciate, a 4-story building, for one. We have concern about the parking, which has been brought up by you, sir, where you have 60 units, and let's even take that 50% of the people don't have a car. That still leaves 30 cars. We have 23 parking lots. Then we have the staff and the visitors. And one of my concerns that I have is that my driveway being next to it, it would be a convenient for people to quickly park there and go inside the building. And I do not wish to become a policeman at my own property and chasing people off for parking, because I think parking, like what's been brought up, is a big concern for me. As far as the whole building going up there, I'm against it, which I'm sure you understand, but I don't think I can do anything about it. I was assured when I bought my property, I went to the planning department and asked them what was going to happen to that property. And they said, don't you worry about it. It is a residential zone. They can only put a 1-story building up. So if you can make it a 1-story building, then it's quite acceptable to me. But it is a 4-story building with a roof garden on top of it. And Anyway, this is my concern for it. But I know even if you vote against it, I was very much surprised last time that all members of council voted against the project, and that with the reliable sources that I had, that one man in the municipal board can decide and overrule every member of council, and that really disappointed me as a citizen of Newmarket. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to sit here for a minute because I've been nutrition manager in nursing homes and retirement homes, and I know that parking is definitely going to be a big problem because, as my husband said, it's not just that maybe only half of the residents, but there's visitors coming. They all have visitors coming, and it always has been a problem in any home if you don't have room for visitors. And there is definitely no parking. So it's a very bad idea. And
Okay.
as far as our next to us, like my husband said, the wind usually comes from the north, and having any garbage site where they put their disposable garbage, it definitely will affect us because we like our windows open when we sleep in our bedroom, and it would affect us. So that's a thing. But it's a very big disappointment to us that we buying the property. We're assured, don't you worry, it is residential, and that today things can change. It's very sad because we retired and we, had looked forward to this. We moved a long way to come to Newmarket and find this property because it was a rural road and not much was going on, and that's what we wanted. So anyway, it's just my 2
Thank you
cents
very
worth.
much for hearing us.
Excuse me, we do have a question for Regional Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I mean, I share your concerns about the parking. I mean, I know we're told that people in these facilities are getting older, but people are also driving longer. And a lot of seniors, even though they rarely drive, some of them like to have a car parked there just because it gives them that sense of independence. But I just want to make sure you understand that the parking, and that's why I asked the question, I wasn't sure, but the parking as well as the 4 stories, the development has been approved by the OMB, and we have no authority or ability to alter that. I mean, and I agree with you completely that the system is not adequate when it allows for one person to come in and completely.
Well, I don't want to become sarcastic, sir, but I wonder why we have to spend all your valuable time here discussing about that, and they can just overrule you. Why doesn't it go straight to the OMB? If this is what, as a taxpayer, it really puzzles me. I mean, you people are in the same, but you are elected by us. You're representing us, and I appreciate what you people doing, but this really disappoints me. But, not with members of council, don't get me wrong, but with that department, I'm sorry.
We have recently provided input to the provincial government about our frustration with the current process, and much like you said, one of the comments I made was, if you're not going to allow us the authority or the latitude to plan the communities we represent, then take it over completely. But don't pretend
Exactly.
it's one way or the other. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're in the process of providing input, and
No democracy.
It is
That's
the-
what we
it's the
feel.
current system.
No democracy at all.
thank you.
But
Thank
so
you,
much.
Councillor. I'm sorry, Councillor Sponga? Just going in the order.
I'd like to make a further comment to that, what Regional Councillor Taylor has. Yes, we have made, we're making comments to the province, but it goes beyond that. I don't know if you realize that, but the federal government does not recognize this as a form of government. We are a creation of the provinces, so Canada doesn't even recognize their own municipalities as a form of government, so that's how bad it is. But you have a chance to change that. A question to you. The garbage enclosure, you raised that. Would it help if, and I don't see, right now I see that there is some plantings being proposed, and I'm not sure, I believe they're white cedars. They get to about just over 2 meters tall. But on the actual south side along the garbage enclosure, there's no provisions right now for any large trees. Would that help you if along that line?
Large trees?
If there were any trees along the line of the garbage enclosure?
Oh, I would be quite happy if they planned the whole property with trees and leave the building off.
So that perhaps is something that council committee could consider to suggest to the developer?
Well, I don't think, see, what our concern is, they're gonna put up a 1.8 meter fence, wooden fence, on our property line.
Right.
The garbage dump is just on the other side of it.
Right.
And what we're concerned about is that the smell from that will blow over to us, so a tree will not stop.
Okay. It might. It could filter some of it, and then the other thing you could request is to ensure that the garbage enclosure is sealed and closed.
Well, the thing is, there's trees there now that normally we're all supposed to look after the trees, but they will all
What I'm suggesting here, ma'am, is that we add some additional buffering and trees on the south side by the garbage enclosure. And
Well,
then we are sealing.
I would think that the solid fence would do more.
More? Okay.
Or perhaps even if they do it, but I guess it's not allowed any higher, but
So
I don't know. It's we will find out if this project is approved. We will find out, and then we have to live with it.
We can't-
Maybe what I would like to suggest is that they buy my property. They got an extra acre then, and they can put a double size up there, and you don't have to worry about snow removal anymore, and you don't have to worry about parking anymore.
Well, it sounded to me like they were going to come back with some tweaking, so maybe you can take this opportunity after the meeting to negotiate that with them. So perhaps, would you be, what I'm trying to do here is maybe, would it, to try to find a solution to at least the issue of the odor, of what your perceived issue of the odor flowing over towards your property. So maybe if we were to suggest through the condition of site plan to ensure that the garbage enclosure, whatever way possible, be enclosed in such a way that, minimize.
Well, I don't see it. I don't mind they have it there, but if they keep the garbage bins or whatever, if they keep them open, plus the raccoons, but invite raccoons, then I think they should put it in the site plan that they cannot have open garbage disposal there. That it has to be locked, but not locked, but closed.
Okay, perfect. That's what we'll suggest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no
Thank
more
you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other residents like to make a brief comment? Yes, ma'am. If you can please just provide your name and your address.
My name is Tracy McCullen. I live at 1048 Lamar Road.
Thank you.
So our property runs pretty much the full length of this development. So we have quite a few concerns. I just want to address some of the questions that I heard Councillor speaking about parking on Lamar. There is parking allowed Monday through Friday, 8 till 4. On weekends, I think it's pretty much open. So having said that, just this weekend, my husband and I were going down Lamar, and we noticed a whole bunch of people parked on Carlson, and clearly it was all the visitors for Father's Day in the home on Gorham. So it was all the way up Carlson. So we know that's going to happen on Lamar. We all have very large driveways. We know they're going to end up being in our driveway. So our concern is is bylaws going to enforce that on the weekends, make sure that parking is done the way it's supposed to be done. There is a proposed mailbox going right, I think, in the entrance of the home. Canada Post is putting up the mailboxes this fall, so I don't know if council is aware of that, and how that affects the property owners and their development. From what I'm hearing on the news, Canada Post isn't too keen on moving their mailboxes anytime soon, so I don't know if that's going to do it. We've been approached on our property to do a tree study by the Ministry of Natural Resources, so they're coming on our property to study our trees. So I'm not sure if this building is going to affect that, because all of us have quite mature trees in our neighborhoods, and we want to keep them that way. So yes, snow removal, I do have the OMB decision here, and it does say in here that snow needs to be trucked out. So hopefully that continues to stay the same, and that we won't have to worry about runoff and dirty snow at the edges of the parking lot. Construction hours, I think you mentioned that, so we'll wait and see what happens in regards to when they're going to be allowed to, I don't want to sit out on my deck on a Sunday morning and hear construction going on. And my husband and I want to have full say as to what fencing, trees, retaining wall. Retaining wall is a huge issue for my husband and I, because that's going to pretty much, because of the elevation issues, there's going to be a retaining wall there. We want to know how big it is. I'm sorry to say, but the designs that we're given online, we can't read them. We're getting this. This means nothing to me. The last developer provided in our driveway nice, big, huge pictures that we could see, and we knew exactly how big the retaining wall was going to be, what it was going to be made of, what trees were going to be planted there. And we had to say as to style of retaining wall, types of fencing, trees, and we want that again. Because we have to look at it every single day, because we're going to have a huge impact there. There's a bell easement there, a 4-foot bell easement from our property line over. I think if I'm reading it correctly, there's landscaping in there, but I can't really tell. So I want to know what that means. You know, what's going in there. Am I going to have to maintain that? Are they going to maintain that? Like, I don't want something in there that I'm going to have to trim every week to make sure it looks nice. So yeah. So, and the lady mentioned that they're going to be providing transportation for their residents to go to places. Does that mean that vehicle is going to be on site taking up another spot? I know the Barton House, my daughter worked there. Quite a few of those residents had their own cars. Actually, the lady that used to live in our home went from our home to the Barton House and drove her car over there and was there for a few years before she passed away. So they will have their own cars there. There will be doctors, there will be nurses, there will be, I know my daughter, and she had the kitchen staff, there was 4 or 5 of them every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in their cars, in their parking lot. So the amount of parking there, and I know you've said there's nothing you can do about that, but what's going to happen? Are these residents going to be parking on the road in front of our house every day? I don't want that, right? That's not fair to us. You know, it's a wonderful community. We moved there to raise our children, and now, unfortunately, we have no say, but it's been changed to this, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Please proceed to Councillor Kerwin.
Yeah, thank you to the residents. Thank you, Tracy, that you're here again today. And I said for sure I would be here, and I'm here.
And I'll be at every meeting.
And I share your concerns, and I would like to ask you, Mr. Chair, to our staff, would you be willing to meet with Tracy to go over the plans so they're comprehensive to her, so she knows exactly what's happening on that piece of property?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, absolutely, we'd be happy to do that. I think it's worth remembering that these are preliminary plans. If this committee grants site plan approval in principle, then that will give rise to the development of full detailed drawings that are very specifically addressing a lot of things like making notations around snow storage, certainly what fencing looks like, and excuse me, and the the retaining walls. And I recall the earlier conversations, and from what we've heard from the applicants, I would be astonished if they wouldn't be prepared to have those conversations with you, I think that's very reasonable, and we'd be happy to do that.
Right. The other question to you, Mr. Chair, to our Director of Planning, basically what we're doing here is approving the site plan in principle. What would happen if we turned it down?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess you would have to provide reasons for that, and then that would be a decision that could be appealable to the OMB. Given the history, I think we would probably find ourselves being exposed to costs if we were, but I'm speculating a little bit there.
Thank you. That's the question I wanted to ask. And also, Tracy, to let you know, I know about Lamar. The reason for that parking from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday was to prevent students from Sacred Heart from parking their cars on that road or going out there during recess and accessing their cars.
Well, and my neighbor from across the street's here too, and she mentioned on our way over here, it's a bus route during the school year too. So you've got buses going up and down
I can have
all day long.
When it starts, I can have we have 2 now traffic consultants, traffic engineers on staff. I can ask them to do a report, and just like I did over on Pleasant View, because members from South Lake were parking in that area, we made it a no parking zone. So we can do that, Tracy. It's been done, and
Well, I think the residents
Pleasant View
support
has
that 100%.
had that happen. So
because-
we can do that to help you out. But and the snow removal, I tied that down 9 years ago. That's why I
Yeah,
asked the
it's
question
written right
again,
in
and
here.
it was
I
written
highlighted
right
it.
into that they should be aware that they have to do that. But you can see
Especially with our snowfalls
and I
lately.
will say one thing. I was just involved, and I spent 4 long days before the Ontario Municipal Board on an issue called Mulock Court, where our staff, under our capable planner, Megan White, had written a report, denied them the ability to build a medical center in a residential zone. And we were 4 days at the Ontario Municipal Board, and they went up and got special approval to get access off of Mulock Drive onto that site. But the OMB even overruled the fact that through this intelligent denial, they took away our rights and they allowed them to go ahead. And now they're even fighting us on the site plan agreement. So I appreciate the frustration. I think Christina Bazance is frustrated. We went to the OMB on the Glenway. I went on this one 10 years ago. You're quite right. It's very, very frustrating, and that's why I said to you, there's very little we can do other than to tie it down as much as possible in the site plan, and work with the residents. And you know, I'm always available. I reply to my emails. I go to your houses. I phone you, and I will be there through the construction of this to take the brunt of it. But there's very little that this council can do. Therefore, when we've heard all the residents, unfortunately, I will be the guy who's in Ward 2. I will be moving that we accept this and in principle, and it goes to our staff, and the residents there will be totally informed, and anytime you want information, I'll be around.
Thank you, Councillor Kerwin. If we can have someone move to receive the deputations from the residents. Moved by Councillor Kerwin, seconded by Regional Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? I just want to make one quick comment, and that's to our applicants. You've heard a lot of discussion regarding the parking. I know the OMB has given you a minimum number, and that is, please be reminded, that is a minimum number. We do expect you to work with staff to try to address these and try to get additional parking there. We welcome you to the town of Newmarket, but we do expect you to be a good corporate citizen with us and to listen and take seriously what you're hearing today. So thank you very much for that. I'd like a motion from, yes, I'd like a motion from council to approve the site plan in principle and taking into consideration the comments that have been made.
I'll move that.
Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Twinney. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Perhaps if we can have staff just tell us the next steps now.
Through you, Mr. Chair, once this has been ratified by through Committee of the Whole and/or Council, then the applicant will be entitled to begin making formal submissions through our department and working toward actually developing approved drawings, and we will be developing a site plan agreement document. So throughout some of that, that's where people like Tracy, for example, will have that opportunity to see the nature of the wall and fencing and so on.
All right, thank you very much. If we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councillor Kerwin. Councillor Twinney. All those in favor. Thank you very much, everyone.